Hi, and welcome back wherever it is you're watching or listening. Thank you for being here today. My name is Mindy, and I'm right in the middle of reading my debut book, 23 Ways to Leave. Today, I will be reading chapter 15, Leaving the Old Patterns, Breaking the Cycle for Good. It wasn't until my husband was gone that I started to really look at my past through a new lens. As a freshly widowed mom of two, I expected grief and exhaustion. I didn't expect the old family patterns to come back like ghosts I thought I had buried. I remember sitting on the floor in my bedroom one night on speakerphone with my bestie. I was trauma dumping through tears, the grief of my husband's death still fresh, and I heard myself say something I truly believed at the time. I had such a good childhood. I don't understand how I ended up in a relationship like that. That sentence didn't age very well. On a family trip to the mountains, I was thrown back into the reality of the family dynamic that I grew up in. Suddenly, I was fighting with my brother like we were teenagers again. Accusations, guilt tripping, the same emotional tug of war we had always had. Only this time, his wife and all of our kids were part of the argument too. My parents, still emotionally unavailable, offered more logistics than love. After his death, they helped me with insurance payments and groceries, but hugs and heartfelt support weren't exactly on the table. No one could handle the weight of my grief, nor were they equipped to help me with my healing, but instead of saying that, they just fought with me or disappeared or shut down. In therapy, I finally started to connect the dots. I hadn't been repeating my romantic partners, I'd been repeating my upbringing. And I remember thinking, no wonder I stayed in a relationship that hollowed me out like that. That love that felt so shallow. That's what love always looked like to me: conditional, distant, chaotic. Then came therapy, EMDR, journaling, the slow and painful process of reprocessing everything I thought I knew about myself and my family. That's when the truth started to surface. I hadn't had a bad childhood, but I had a confusing one. One where love and emotional neglect lived in the same house. One where pleasing people who hurt me felt familiar and safe. One where I learned to be valuable by being helpful, not by simply being me. Why we repeat toxic relationship patterns. It wasn't just that I married someone who mistreated me. It was that I had already been trained long before marriage to ignore my own pain in order to keep the peace. I found a journal entry from when I first met my husband at the ripe old age of 20. I wrote that he reminded me of my dad. At the time, I thought that was a good thing. But through therapy, I realized both my dad and my brother had shaped my earliest blueprint of love. They were the first men to teach me what it felt like to be judged, dismissed, made fun of, and told I was too much or not enough. My marriage wasn't a new wound, it was a reopened one. The love bombing and nitpicking was my childhood in disguise. Growing up, nothing ever really felt fair, but it was always made to look that way. My girl cousins and I would all get the same gift at Christmas to keep things equal. Meanwhile, emotionally, nothing was equal. The unspoken rule was don't rock the boat, don't express too much, and whatever you do, don't you dare need anything. So I became my family's little therapist. I was the helper, the fixer, the good girl. I learned early on that being useful meant being lovable. And I carried that same desperate hope into my marriage. That if I wore all the right masks, performed all the right tasks, I'd finally be enough to be loved safely. But chemistry is not compatibility, and intensity is not intimacy. Just it took losing everything to realize that what felt right to me wasn't actually healthy. It was just familiar. How to break free from the cycle. You've come this far, done the brave work of identifying the patterns in your romantic relationships and in yourself. But now it's time to go deeper. This is about your pattern, the one you've repeated across love, friendship, family, and work. Start here with these questions. What are the common denominators in your past relationships? What themes continue throughout? Do your exes resemble one of your parents in the way that they talk to you, ignore you, or pull you in just to push you away? Notice similarities here. Do your fights mimic the emotional chaos that you witnessed growing up? Are you just repeating the same thing? Look closely, not just at the people that you've chosen, but at the role you've played again and again. What are you repeating here? Were you always the peacemaker, the overachiever, the one doing it all, holding it all together, keeping the relationship afloat? These are more than just random dynamics that repeat. They are old survival strategies, and they have been running the show for far too long. The truth about attachment styles. If you've ever thought, it's just because I'm anxiously attached, I want to stop you right there. You are not your attachment style. You are not doomed to chase unavailable people or push away good ones. Attachment styles are not identities. They're just habits. Habits that were formed in environments where your emotional needs weren't fully met and you were just surviving. And guess what? Habits can be changed. You can learn to self-soothe instead of seeking external validation. You can learn to regulate your nervous system instead of spiraling into old panic responses. You can build trust with yourself instead of relying on others to define your worth. Once you recognize your pattern, you stop feeling powerless to it. You start asking different questions so you can date with discernment and not desperation. You stop looking for the same fireworks that started to burn you alive. Now, when I feel intense chemistry with someone, I pause. My brain still wants to shout, "Oh my God, this is it." But my heart has learned to whisper, "Hold on, what exactly feels familiar here?" Because if I'm still wounded and you're still wounded and our wounds are what drew us to each other, that is not fate calling. It is our trauma bonding. Here's the tool for this chapter: the self-parenting letter. It's hard to break free from these patterns if no one ever taught you what healthy love looks or feels like. That's why self-parenting is so powerful. You learn to give yourself what you didn't get to receive. Here is your practice. Write a letter to your younger self. Choose an age, maybe 5 or 12 or 17, maybe an age that speaks to you. Really follow your heart here. Picture that younger version of you clearly. Where are they? What are they feeling? What are they needing? Now, speak to this younger part of you with the fierce compassion of a mama bear. Tell her all the things that she deserved to hear back then. Tell her that she didn't have to earn love, didn't have to be perfect, that they didn't have to carry the emotional weight of a household. Tell them that just because these things happened to you doesn't mean you were not lovable. Tell them that they're safe now because you are here. You are now your own safe place. Closing encouragement. Breaking the cycle is not about blaming your family. It's about freeing yourself. It's about seeing the truth in your situation and working from that space. It's about recognizing that you're not broken. You've just been repeating a cycle and you have the power now to stop. Your past doesn't have to dictate your future unless you let it. This is the moment where you start writing a new pattern, one where love actually feels like peace and where your safety, your joy, and your worth are no longer up for negotiation. I am so proud of you for doing this work, changing these parts of you, stopping these patterns from holding you back. That's what this work is all about. Thank you so much for being here today. This was a short one. And I just, I really hope that you were able to get something out of this. And as always, I'm here. If you need anything at all, please forward this along to someone who might get something out of it. And yeah, just keep on the journey. You're worth it. You're worth living without these patterns controlling your life. Till next time, love you, mean it.